Welcome everyone to another episode of or live stream of the Government Cheats Time. Um, Finally back with the boys. So we are brought to you by the Anti-Watch Club, a IRS compliant registered 501c3 nonprofit that believes in caring for those who have borne and currently bear the battle. They're veteran, LEO, first responder centric, an organization that provides monetary, social, humanitarian, and emotional support to those in need. And we're glad to be part of and do our little bit for to help. So how you doing, Jason?
Doing pretty good, Alex. How are you? It's good to see you again, my friend.
Good, man. Good to see you. I know that if you're watching right now, Cody's having some technical difficulties. So as soon as he jumps in, we'll bring him in, and it's going to be a great episode. So and we
isn't S6 is S6 is troubleshooting his connection.
You know what's crazy? Alex put that meme today about the S6 thing, and then this happened. You know,
S6 strikes again.
It strikes all the time when you least expect it. So it happens. But yeah, man.
Tonight's a special show. Yeah. We have Wes from Nodus Watches on. He's one of the managing partners. Just to sit around and have a watch chat. We hope everybody enjoys it. But let's just get to we know Wes is a busy man. He's got all kinds of stuff. Yeah. Without further ado, Wes from Nodus Watches.
What's up?
What's up, man? How you doing?
Good. Got my beer, got my watch, ready to hang out for a little bit.
Hell yeah! I got my watch. I got my wine.
Well, yeah. Since you're the guest of honor, let's get a drink check and
sure,
a watch check, wrist check.
So I'm wearing the deep blue,
nice,
which I call the bleep. It's hard to see, but it is a blue dial.
Yeah.
And I think actually both of you have the left-handed one, right?
Left-handed, yeah, yes. Left-handed.
Yeah. The left-handed drive. Yeah. And for my drink check, there we go. Oh, nope.
Bring him in. There you go.
I'm here, finally.
Well, when someone stands up, you never know if they have pants on. So I was just trying to cover down for a fellow member of the podcast. I was like, I don't know if Cody's got pants on.
Actually, I have BDU.
Nice. There you go. God's played, man. God's played.
Issued ones by me, of course.
Exactly.
I'm not a newbie. Wes, long time.
Cody, good. How you doing, man?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you doing?
Good. I was in the middle of my drink check, which is
keep going.
Bodie's off IPA.
Nice.
Oh, nice.
Oh, nice.
Which is this Seattle. I'm actually in Seattle right now.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's a Seattle-based IPA. Seattle-based brewery, and they make this nice hazy IPA.
Oh, nice.
So,
that's thick.
Cheers, guys.
Nice.
That's thick with two C's.
Cheers.
All right, so I guess obviously I'm last to the party, but
you're second.
Late.
Go ahead.
You're second to the party.
Yeah, we just started.
Okay. Obviously, singing Omega, Nectanon.
Yeah.
And in lieu of Wes having an IPA, I am having a Elysian Space
that's good.
Another Seattle brewery.
Another Seattle, Washington brewery.
Nice.
Well, I guess I'll go next.
Yeah.
I'm wearing my left-hand drive GSAR.
Nice.
From Wilson Watchworks out of North Carolina, Arctic dial. With a 12-hour bezel insert, and in the glass, because it's rather warm here today, I have an unoaked Chardonnay from Red River.
Nice.
With a glass that my wife etched with the cardinal on it because she likes birds.
There you go. Hey, you gotta keep household 6 happy, so it happens.
Hey man, she's S0.
Well, for me, I have my new acquired while I was in the desert Zodiac skin diver on the AWWC strap, of course. Nice. And I have a little bit of Cabernet and going with it because
Avignon
race. I'm trying to be like
Mr. Fancy Pants.
Mr. Fancy Pants, like the H guys over there. I won't mention them. But yeah, all good. So happy to be here.
So how's everyone have a good week? You have a good week, Wes?
Yeah, long week. I got into Seattle last night. I was in Indiana for the entire week. Before that, I was in LA. Before that, I was in Chicago. So I've been everywhere.
Oh man,
It's been a busy August.
Yeah.
racking up them freaking flyer miles.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a lot. That's a lot of free miles, man.
Got to keep the
Yeah,
train
but
going.
you know those miles have to be used for more traveling, which is something I don't really want to do right now. But
Yeah, I hear you. What's your home base of operations?
so we do most of our work is in LA. So like all the design work, assembly work is in LA, but all the fulfillment work, basically like the warehousing, all happens in Seattle. So I'm actually in the warehousing room right now.
Oh, nice.
You see, like
Nice,
watches
nice.
and crap
Yeah.
everywhere.
That's a proper warehouse,
Oh,
man.
man.
It's got,
Yeah.
I like that warehouse feel.
It's pretty
Nice.
cool. That's pretty cool.
What's Colin up to?
He is actually on a flight, or he's about to board a flight. Well, fingers crossed that apparently there's a hurricane about to hit SoCal. So,
Yeah.
you know, fingers crossed that he makes it onto the plane and the plane takes off. But he's on his way up to Seattle.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, hopefully nothing crazy happens. Hopefully he's good to go, man. Because I did see that. Apparently they said that it's supposed to dump like 3 years worth of rain.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
24
something like
hours
that.
or something like that.
Yeah, it's out of control,
Yeah.
man. That's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
You
Yeah.
just
Yeah,
come
they
to
ain't ready.
Savannah every day, and it's going to rain in the summertime for you. So
I'm from Southern California. They ain't ready for that.
No.
Oh yeah,
Three-
no way.
3 years of
No,
rain in
dude,
4 minutes.
every time it rains down in LA, I see like the next day all these tarps go over the roofs because
Yeah.
like we had no rain, so it's hard to tell if our roof is still in
Yeah.
good shape or not,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Man, that's crazy.
So I can't
Oh.
imagine what's going to happen after this hurricane.
yeah. Especially all the people with like ceramic, the tile roofing and stuff like that. Because I'm from the Inland Empire, so it's real hot out there. And like a lot of those old people have had their roofs for like 20, 30 years, and they never had them worked on because, like you said, they never had to deal with any real weather to know if the roof is leaking or not.
Yeah, that's
crazy.
like my roof actually. So
Yeah.
fingers crossed
Oh,
I go
man.
back to a house that's still intact.
Yeah, we got
Fingers
you, man.
crossed, man.
Good,
Fingers
good
crossed.
thoughts.
Yeah.
Good thoughts. Well, me and Alex are talking. Cody had you on the show, so I mean, this is standard watch chat. We just shoot the stuff. We have a slight variety of topics, but we always give the guest, which is you, the guest of honor, a chance to talk about anything that Nodus is doing or anything you want to let the watch community know about. By all means, take it and run with it.
Sorry, was that to me or was that
Purple?
to Cody?
Oh yeah, to Wes.
Yeah,
Sorry.
for you, Wes.
Oh, no, that was to
I
me.
mean,
Okay.
I can tell you what Nodus is up to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
it's-
well, a good place to start would probably be the watch collab, right? That's probably
yeah, we can. I mean,
Oh
yeah,
really? I
might
didn't
as,
know we were
might
gonna
as
talk
well,
about that.
right?
Yeah, might as well.
might as well. Cat's out of the bag already. It's all,
Yeah,
already
yeah.
all over Instagram and Facebook as it is.
Yeah.
So for those who don't know, Watch Club reached out to Nodus, specifically Wes, to see about doing a collaboration piece, and this was about last year,
Yeah, it was like right after Wind Up
Fall.
New York.
late October,
Yeah.
early November time period. I reached out, and conversations were kind of early, brief. You have to keep in mind AWWC at the time was, I mean, we just hit 1 year old, right? We were still very much a young company. We still trying to find our feet in this watch space that's congested. But Wes had no issues. We kind of felt each other out. He felt me. He felt the company out, or the nonprofit, I should say, because that's what we are. He did some sourcing operations through some
Selling souls.
no, not selling souls. I guess he asked around about us, and some of our members came back that we were solid and we're the real deal, that we're in this to give back to our brothers and sisters. So we started like, okay, let's do this. NDAs were signed and all that stuff. And then it came to what model we were going to do. And then through each other's conversations and kind of like what we both like and watch, had to be DLC and had to be the Deep, because they had just released it. It sold out super fast. We were like, you know what? let's do a DLC deep. And then renderings were done, logos were exchanged back and forth. Yeah, and then we released it, or Wes released it. And how many do you have left, Wes?
Well, I've got to double check. We did a plank owner sale first, right? Like basically to like the early supporters of Watch Club. Most of them are gone. I have to double check. We have like a handful left that we're probably going to do. Was it in like 10 days? We're going to do a public launch just to give the, I think probably the Facebook group mostly, give them access to whatever's left. Yeah, I guess that was actually a good roundup by Cody, a good summary of how it all went down. But I guess to add a bit of context, so I spoke to Alex. Alex is the CEO, the other Alex, the CEO of Anti-Watch.
Undos.
Yeah.
Undos, yeah. And so we actually, our first conversation, we ended up talking for like almost 2 hours, just like getting to know each other. Talked a little bit about watches, but more so talked about just, you know, like life and where he came from. And he actually is also from LA. So for him, and he lives in Vegas right now. For him, it kind of made sense to partner with us as a California brand. And for me, my dad actually is a veteran, so it kind of made a lot of sense to me, and it was something that spoke to me as well. Partnering with a charity that benefited, you know, veterans, especially a Navy charity. So through Watch Club, we'll be working with the All In All the Time charity, which is a naval veteran charity. So the project, you know, it means a lot to me as a watch enthusiast working with, you know, a watch group. But I mean, it's a double whammy, the fact that it means a lot to my dad as well. And, you know, just the entire project was also just very fun to work on. I think a watch like the Deep deserves to be in DLC, at least for one version of it. So yeah, and it's a really badass watch.
Yeah,
it is.
It's, you know, for me, when I when I got the first left-hand drive, man, I'm telling you, like, the watch is just excellent. You know, the details, the way the way he goes about it is just perfect, in my opinion. You know, like me and Jason did a whole episode about the Deep. When I learned that you guys were doing a collab with AWWC, I was like, well, I guess it's time to go work the corner, sell some feet picks. But I'm getting this watch. You know, it's obvious. You know, the attention to detail and all that stuff. And I've been a fan of you guys for a while, and every iteration of watches, whatever a watch is just punching way above of what it was before. So definitely an amazing watch, and I can't wait, man.
Yeah, it's a great piece. I mean, Wes, we talked wind up last year for a little while when I had that media access, and you know, finding out that your dad was in the Navy was pretty awesome. And I don't know if you remember my buddy T that was there with us, but you know, he's a submariner as well. And so you were kind enough to let us borrow the Avalon Sea Spray 2, and we did a review on my blog of that. And T subsequently bought that, and now he's like, I'm going to take the day off when they launch the Deep, because he didn't get a chance to get the original Deep. And he's like, I really want to get the OG Deep when it launches. I might take the day off and have two computers pulled up and like hitting a button to make sure I can get it. But,
keep it and refresh.
Yeah. You know what I mean? But it's awesome because he's a guy who actually, like, you know, a lot of us use our stuff, but like, he's a real, what I call a water guy, man. Like, he surfs, he paddle boards, he swims in the ocean. He's got a farm with like a pond and stuff. And he does, you know, like, he just really has put his Sea Spray 2 through the ringer, and he loves that watch. You know, he'll wear it to a wedding one night and, you know, wear it while he's milking cows the next day. And the thing does all that stuff. So it's been really nice to see how Nodus has grown over the past year. And I'm kind of excited to see what they have going forward. You know, I had the Deep, the LHD, and I have an actual retired naval officer I work with. We're on the same team, and he was just writing me about the LHD. And I'm like, look, bro, I have an idea of something that might be coming down the pike. If it comes to fruition, I will sell you the plain LHD at cost, and then I will use that to fund my DLC. But I'm not giving this watch up unless I know for a fact I'm getting the DLC. So when all that stuff was going on, I secured it. I walked in and said, "Hey, go Venmo me some money." And he Venmo'd me, and I gave him the watch, and like he's over the moon because he hunts and all that stuff. And then the ship class we're involved with is the actual same acronym as the left-hand drive. So for him, it meets a whole bunch of stuff. And
yeah,
but yeah, it's been really cool watching this whole ride with Nodus and seeing what you guys have been doing, because especially that blue deep, that thing, man, it's hard to pull off a dark blue, and make it stand out on its own accord because there's so much blue stuff out there. But that blue deep with the green letterings.
Can I ask you guys, the original, the black deep with the left-hand drive, that was the first time our company's ever had a sellout that quick. So, you know, with subsequent launches like this blue one, and then the upcoming restock of the black left-hand drive, we're going to be manufacturing way more than we did that first run. But that first run was like in line with everything else that we made previously in terms of volume. So I want to ask you guys, what do you think about the deep that made it so popular? Like, why was that the one that just everyone wanted?
Well, I can give you one nugget real quick, and then I'll let the other guys do it. But for my buddy that wanted it, he was impressed by, and he was a budding watch guy, right? So his first real watch, he bought a Tag Heuer Aqua Racer because he was going on vacation and he wanted a gold two-tone watch to impress his family back in the old country. But when he saw all the different features and options you put on that deep, you know, the bezel, the crown lock, I mean, silly, like the crown lock, the dive lock extension, the micro adjust extension, like all this stuff, right? He was like, man, I've never seen a watch. Now, granted, he's been into watches for like a year, but he's like, that's a lot for the price point. And then when he held it and felt the, you know, the finishing quality of the bezel and the case and the way the dial, the indices are applied and all this other stuff, like all this stuff blew him away. And this is with a 1 year of watch knowledge. He was like, I can't believe they're doing this for this price point. And then it made him start questioning other brands. So I think that that's one thing that I have.
Yeah, for me, I mean, the first picture I saw was when you guys posted a picture of the indices and the recession of the indices and how the indices looked against that dial. It blew me away with just that picture, because I don't remember correctly exactly, but I think the picture wasn't even the whole dial. It was just like the 12 o'clock indices. And then I saw the bezel. So it intrigued me because the case size. I remember reading the case size is the sector case. But with the bezel, I was like, man, this is intriguing. And then from there just drew me in, and every little detail. So from there, the left-hand crown with the red detail that says lock on it and the arrow. Just something simple. The drill lugs. And then the Nodus clasp. Because before you guys came out with this watch, one of the things that I heard a lot was, you know, for smaller companies, smaller watches companies, independent companies, it's hard to you know, innovate. It's hard because you don't know if people are going to like it. And, you know, the watch world, we know how it is. Yeah, it's expensive. And on top of that, watch people are, you know, it's crazy. This hobby is a little crazy. So they think companies are catering just directly to them. So it's kind of hard for companies to come up and innovate with something, spend all that money, and then don't know if they're going to make the money back or not. So at the end of the day, that's what I kept hearing a lot. And then you guys came out with this watch, the Nodus clasp that you guys put on it and all that stuff. And to me, it kind of symbolized like, no, you know, this is smaller companies can do it too. And we can do it at a level the majority of companies would charge you 4-6 times what we're charging you. And I owned a Nodus before, the retrospect.
Yep.
So one of the things that from the beginning of my podcast, when I had the retrospect, one of the things that I sing praises a lot was the quality of the bracelet. because a lot of times, yeah, we put watches on straps, but the thing is, a lot of times we see a small company and we say, okay, a micro brand, and we say, yeah, the bracelet is not good, but it's a micro brand. So to me, comparing that to what you guys were doing on the bracelet, I was like, nah, man, like I can't give people a pass, other companies a pass when Nodus is doing it at such a low price point, and their bracelets are amazing.
I never took it off the bracelet, bro. I never took it off the bracelet. The whole time I had it.
The combination of everything to me was like, I know this watch is going to be great. And I wasn't wrong, man. So
yeah, I think a lot of watch enthusiasts, they don't understand that making bracelets is an order of magnitude harder than making the watch itself, and making the clasp is an order of magnitude harder than making the bracelet. So it's like the parts of the watch that people don't really pay attention to, like most watch enthusiasts or budding watch enthusiasts, those things are so much harder to make, so those details, those just like the tolerances, and making sure that the clasp, the screws aren't stripped from the moment you get it, making sure the extension works. And granted, the Nodex had a lot of issues in the early days, but we had the option to use the clasp that Chris Ward made, because there are a lot of brands using that, either that one or the Omega one. Those two are making their rounds now in the micro brand world. But what that would mean is that we wouldn't be able to really make our own custom enclosure. So it would literally be an exact copy of the Chris Ward or the Omega clasp, which to us just felt like, we invest so much money into designing our own watch. A lot of brands invest in making their own bracelet. So why would we just take a clasp off the shelf? Even though, yes, it is an extension clasp, and it solves the problems that all of us have during the summer. But, it felt very counter to what we stood for. And honestly, a lot of brands don't stand for that either, but a lot of brands don't have either the capabilities or don't have the funds to invest in something like that. So, it was definitely a big risk, and the first couple of iterations of Nodex definitely were a little painful. And to be honest, we're still not really exactly where we want to be at. Probably every launch that we and all of our partners come out with, that we're licensing the clasp to over the next 3 to 5 years, every version of it's probably going to be updated a little bit. Things are going to be tweaked a little bit. So it's a never ending. That's kind of what's exciting about this kind of job, though, right? When you start trying to innovate a little bit more, you're never really doing the same thing over and over again, right? Every time you do what looks like the same thing on the outside, there are little things on the inside that we're always tweaking and moving things around, and streamlining different processes to manufacture, assemble. So that's what really makes this fun.
It goes to show that y'all are just, for how big Nodus is, y'all are continuously pushing the envelope forward and blowing the industry's quote unquote expectations of what they say a micro brand should be capable of doing, right? Like, I'm still waiting for the Contra 3. But the reaction right from the first Contra, let's just talk about that, to the second one was huge. Like, it had a massive impact.
Yeah.
And then it's those little details that you guys are doing in the inside to really push the envelope forward on what Nodus is capable of, is what really is drawing a huge crowd to Nodus, right? The Sector GMT is a beautiful watch. I still want to get Amber one. But it's those little things that y'all do in the design aesthetics, the layout, the LHD with the screw down crown. Like, who would have thought just screw down crown on the crown itself? Like,
that's my favorite part.
Exactly, right? Like,
I love
it's
it,
just
dude. So funny.
We joke about it with the crown squared, right? Jason,
yeah,
big thing of his, but it's
man, that's so good, dude. That's so good.
That you guys are really taking into account that other brands are not doing.
Yeah, and like, just so you know, Wes, I think, because we always have chats about this stuff, like usually before we start a show or whatever. But Cody hit a bunch of nails on the head there. And I think it's important, like especially for our audience, because we have a lot of military and veteran people, right? Or first responders, is that it sounds corny, but it's a true saying that fortune favors the brave, right? So you guys took a risk and you got like a 90% solution for your bracelet, for your clasp, that's yours, right? And if it needs to be tweaked over time, well, you've already done the majority of the work, right? And so anyone like that with the background like ours is going to be like, all right, that's cool. It's going to get tweaked, but we've worn it. We know, like, okay, I mean, I guess they could fix it. I don't know what they would do to fix it because I'm not an engineer, but it's a pretty freaking solid bracelet with a freaking nice clasp. And I'm now excited to see what they're going to do going forward, right? It's not the same old, run around where we're getting like, well, it's this, and this. It's like, no, this watch company took their money. They took their, they put their money where their mouth is. They did a little R&D. They took a shot. The shot worked, right? Mm-hmm. So now if there ever was another shot taken, well, at least we know they're taking shots. And if it doesn't pan out right, okay, well, they'll get to it. They're not going to rest on their laurels and they're going to do great, right? But, and then to back up Cody on the crown square, dude, but the original LHD lock crown, there is nothing, me and Alex have talked about this. There is nothing more military than a diagram telling you which way to turn something so you don't sink your billion-dollar ship or your plane doesn't fall out of the sky or your tank turret doesn't fall off or something, right? Like we are almost all of us, E1s at heart. And at one time we needed to know which way to turn that thing to lock it. And it needed to be red. Yeah. So we didn't destroy the thing we liked.
Yeah. I mean, like how sometimes on certain parts of an aircraft wing it says "do not step," right? It's kind of like that, where like you as someone that does this stuff, you would know that, but having that reminder, right? That's kind of what that lock represents, right? It's just everyone knows you have to tighten the crown and which way it goes, but just putting that reminder there is kind of a nod to that, putting really obvious things just to say, hey, I know you know this, but just in case you forgot, or like you're something, your brain is somewhere else.
No, Wes, I know you're nicer than me. I'm just gonna say, not everyone knows that. There is a lot of people out there. I mean, let's be honest. There was a lot of people that got their watches in the water with the crown not screwed in, because they made the mistake of thinking they were screwing the right way, and they weren't. So, I think that little cues like that, I mean, our food that we eat in the military says all the way down to find a rock to place the thing on. So a rock or something. So
not your thigh.
It's one of those funny things. But at the end of the day, the watch as a whole incorporated a lot of things that were amazing, but it made it extremely different to everything else that everyone else had out there.
Yeah.
And I think that at the end of the day, that gamble paid off. And that's because I think you guys made a post one time that you guys said it started as a funky idea, but that funky idea turned out to something that no one else was doing.
Yeah.
And that's what captivated people, I think, in my opinion.
Yeah. And I'll add another thing in there, part of it like serious and part of it kind of funny, but when I met you guys and I got to talk to you guys at Wind Up, that solidified it for me. Right. Because that's, I'm going again this year and, it's for my podcast, but I just got back from an experience that I won from a blog to watch. It's meeting people that normally you don't get the opportunity to meet and finding out if they're down to earth people or not. And me and you had that whole, and I wasn't trying to tie your time up because we had an hour for media access. And I know you're busy. But we talked for like 15, 20 minutes. And I was like, man, dude, his dad's a Navy vet. He's a submariner. Like freaking legit, bro, from California. Like sign me up. I'm on board. Right. Because there was people there that wouldn't give me 5 seconds because I'm at the time of no one. I got a guy with a podcast and a blog. Right. But you gave me tons of time and it was awesome. And then the other part is oh man, I forgot the second part. Anyways, go ahead, Alex. I know you got something to say. I forgot the second part, but that's the serious part. It was just cool and down to earth to get to meet the faces behind it, like dealing with Jake and all those other guys. Just great company and great people.
Yeah, I mean, it's like that for us too, because Nodus is for the most part a e-commerce company. So these events like Wind Up, so we're hosting an event in Dallas, Texas on September 9th called Intersect, which is an event we usually do in Los Angeles, right? Because Wind Up, I mean, as great as Wind Up is, it really only is in San Francisco, Chicago, and New York. Yeah. So there are a lot of other cities that need a show like this, essentially, right? And the first time we noticed that or realized that, well, actually not the first time, but the last time where I was like, all right, we have to like take this intersect thing that we do in LA and expand it, was actually when I first met Cody in person in Atlanta,
Okay.
where like 60 people showed up. And that was like an invite only. We didn't promote that to our newsletter, and we had like no marketing behind it other than the Red Bar group, as well as the Atlanta Watch Society.
Mhm.
So we realize this intersect thing in LA is great, but there are other cities, especially in Texas, like some of the hotter watch markets, that need something like this. So that's probably going to be the focus of next year. Probably just expanding intersect around the country. So starting with Dallas, Cody, we are going to bring it to Atlanta next year as well, probably around the same time as we did the Red Bar meetup.
Okay,
Man.
so are y'all doing the intersect in November? It's still in LA?
Yeah. So that's going to be the LA one. I mean, that was the
Okay.
first one that we ever did back in like 2018, 2019. So
Mhm.
we're always going to have the LA intersect. But again, we have a huge market in Texas. We have a huge market in the Atlanta region. So we just want to take this thing on the road, bring more brands. So the one in September in Dallas is actually going to be hosted by Jack Mason at their showroom in Deep Ellum,
Oh, nice.
in Dallas. So
Yeah.
and we have a great roster coming. We have Formex is going to be there, Laurier is going to be there, Raven's going to be there.
Oh wow.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
it's pretty cool, man. Man, I need you guys to do something in Kansas City so I can.
Yeah. I'll tell you right now. Hey, Wes, you ever want to do something in Hampton Roads, bro? Largest naval station in the world. Reach out to me and I'll help organize it, man, because I think you would get a huge turnout here.
Yeah.
I know for a fact if you did like an invite only thing and didn't market it, I could get you a room full of people easily.
Yeah.
Because
Dallas-
there's way more active duty watch enthusiasts than you think.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dallas is definitely a big market for sure. So I think you guys will have a great turnout. I saw it through the Recon Team watch blog a while back. So I think that it's going to be a great event for you guys to go down to Dallas.
Yeah, Texas is a huge watch
Yeah.
leading city, along with New York City. Atlanta is actually really huge. You got the New York Horological Society that comes down to Atlanta all the time to do classes. I think what y'all are doing outside of Wind Up, of course, is you're expanding and you're making it your own instead of just a typical Wind Up, which is great. It's gotten a lot of people into the industry, like into watches, but when you can take it a step further and be like, okay, we're taking this outside of San Fran, Chicago, New York City. That's you're able to reach people, and that's what people want. They want that connection to the managing partners, to the ones who design it, to the ones who do the renderings. Like they just want to be able to talk, and what y'all are doing with Intersect is y'all are doing just that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It helps us too, right? Like learning what our audience actually wants, right? Meeting people in person. Otherwise they're just, they'll be email. That's all they are to us unless we actually get to meet them.
Yeah. And it's nice to go to a watch event.
Sorry, Jason.
Oh, it's okay. I was just gonna say it's nice to go to a watch event without having to spend $2,000 to get there. You know what I mean? Because a lot of us are small, independent, outlets, whatever you want to call us. But we plane ticket, or we drive if it's close enough, and then lodging. You know what I mean? Like, and no one's paying that for us other than us. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
it's cool when you have an option that's close, and not as expensive.
Yeah.
It's lost train of thought. It's that personal connection, going back to that, because it's really what sets Nodus apart from even the bigger micro brands. You name it. Like I can't just go out and meet them at X, Y, and Z bar restaurant and be like, hey, what's up? I'm Cody. And they're like, oh, that's cool. But then when I first met you and Colin at the Atlanta Red Bar event, it's like, hey, of course I was wearing AWWC shirt and I'm the only one that's doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just just like old friends do. And that's what's missing from a lot of the brands that Nodus is really huge on. You're really huge on touching and interacting and engaging your demographics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, Cody nailed it because me and Alex talk about it all the time because, like, you know, we've had some guests on here. We've had the guys from Forsher. We had Mike Pearson from Zodiac on, and Mike's not Zodiac. He's a Zodiac employee, but like having these people that can come on and speak to more other than just the specs of the watch, or they can talk about the lineage of the watch and what the watch wants to do and what the company's doing for, either our community or another community, or right. And then what they have planned for the future really matters because you also get to see a lot of the person's personality, right? Like it's not lost to me, and I don't think it's lost on these other guys that you're phoning in from a freaking warehouse, right? Like you don't have to phone in from a warehouse if you don't want to. You could have been like, "Yo, man, I'm going to be in a warehouse. It's not going to work." No, you set up your stuff, and you got it. You're getting it done from a warehouse, and that just shows like a level of commitment to all of us because we've all had to do jobs in really cruddy places before. You know what I mean? Like it's not the best environment, but you make do with what you got.
Yeah. So Wes,
yeah, sure.
Other than the AWWC collab, what else is in the future or ahead for Nodus?
A couple of things. So Cody alluded to one of them, the Contrail 3. So assuming the weather in SoCal is all good, it should be released and in Cullen's hands when he gets back to LA. So a little bit about that watch. The Contrail 1 was our very first kind of like poor man's GMT. So 3-hander, but it had a 12-hour bidirectional bezel. And at the time, it was the first watch under $1,000 to use ball bearings under the bezel. So that's how we achieved the bidirectional action. Contrail 2 was an improvement on that, but that one, what we wanted to do is we wanted to use a sloped sapphire insert. Again, something else that's pretty hard to do. And the Contrail 3 is basically taking everything we learned from the 1 and the 2. So you'll have the cool action, you'll have the sloped insert with much improved loom, but we're going to use the 9075 for a true GMT.
Nice.
Kind of like not really twisted. Well, yeah. Basically, it's like the Grand Seiko 9F quartz kind of case where it has like really giant chamfers on it, really clean transitions, Nodex as well, obviously. Should be fun. I can send you guys some photos later. We have a cool collaboration coming out as well with Matt Farah of the Smoking Tire. So we got hooked up with him because our first technician, we hired him last summer. He actually did a bunch of mods. He's pretty well known on Instagram. His name is Shadow Watchmaker. And he used to do a bunch of mods where he basically stains these Seikos with like coffee or with tea or something to give it like a cool patina look. But it's not like the weird Fotina that you see with like modern like the modern Fotina. It actually looks like a real vintage watch. And Matt Farah loved it, so we had him do like 3 or 4 different watches. So after that, he put us in touch, and then Matt Farah took a look at I think it was the Sector Sport was the one that he first held, and he was like, I've been looking for the perfect everyday watch. The only problem was that the one that we made was a little bit too small for him. He's a pretty big guy. He's like 6'4". So he's like, if you can make this in 41 millimeters, use a Swiss movement. So we just talked back and forth, had a bunch of design ideas. So he ended up designing the entire watch, obviously inspired by the Sport because that dial layout, the text and the font and everything is derivative of the Sector Sport dial. But everything else was built from the ground up. We did a launch to his Patreon group, and we were expecting to sell maybe half of them. We made 100. We expected to sell maybe half and then release the other half to the public, like the YouTube subscribers and Instagram, Twitter, or whatever. But all of them sold out in under an hour. So now we have to make a bunch more of those too.
It's a great problem to have.
Yeah, but that'll be fun because we're going to be throwing a party at his garage in LA,
nice.
probably in December. So it'll be a pickup party as well, where people who are in LA will be coming out to his garage. We're probably going to do a giveaway as well of one of the prototypes. And it's going to be, we're still trying to figure out how it's going to work, but something along the lines of they donate blood. And then if they donate blood, they'll just take a picture of the certificate. We'll put it in a hat, pick out a name, and then we're going to fly them out to the party. And
Oh, nice.
I think Matt's going to see if he can just take them on a ride around the canyons, maybe film a video or something along those lines for the smoking tire.
Nice.
Yeah,
That's really awesome.
I love that show.
That's a fun collab. We're doing this thing with well, actually, I can't say who I'm doing it with yet. But there's a tech company that wants us to make a watch for them. So we're going to be working on that. We'll probably release. We'll put out a press release probably in like not a couple months, maybe like within the next 6 months.
Nice. Wes, I don't know if now you're gonna have a bunch of people just come into this LA party. Yeah. So it's gonna be pretty cool. But that's pretty cool, man. That's pretty cool. I'm personally waiting for the duality, which is like and on your page it says next year.
Yeah.
I don't know
so
why.
We're aiming for probably like late summer, early fall next year is what we want to. Yeah. If everything goes according to plan with these next couple of projects, then that should be a pretty accurate timeline. But send me an email with any ideas you have, because we're kind of at a creative roadblock right now.
Snap.
We're not really sure what to do differently from the first one.
Yeah, no problem.
Alex, I'll be the first to attest. Alex has a sneaky ninja-esque watch acumen. He knows an awful lot about an awful lot of different, like technically watch knowledge. It's pretty nah, bro. Man, I mean, then you're the fact then you have like Google glasses or something, because this dude, like, it's just pretty impressive. But the tech company watch, is it NTech or Skynet? Because if it is, I want one. If Tron or Terminator, I'm all sign me up for the watches. I want the robots to come master control program.
You're on the right track.
Okay. Sign me up, baby.
See,
I need that universe I need those two universes to combine.
Yeah. Oh man, that's great, Wes. I think everyone is looking forward to your projects. I think you guys allude very well the way you guys. So your website is one of the things that I say is bigger companies should take a cue after it, right? Because microbrands are killing the e-commerce, like you were saying, right? The e-commerce side of things. Big companies have ADs. Big companies never have to worry about it, and they have, for majority of those companies, they have 80, 85 years old on top of them, so they don't know what the internet is. Now, for you guys and for microbrands, e-commerce is something that is helping you guys, and your website, the way you guys do your website is amazing. And having something like your design lab where you allude to things upcoming is great. I think it's a great idea to have people to be able to go in and say, oh man, this is coming. Yeah. So around this time, so they can plan for it and so on and so on. And I think that more information never hurt anyone. So I think it's a pretty cool
You can
thing.
tell someone's been to Comic-Con, because you guys do the cool thing where it's a silhouette, right? Yeah. Like when it's far out, it's just a silhouette and everyone's like, what the hell is that?
The thing is, we're both watch enthusiasts, so all the gripes that we have with all these bigger watch companies, like as watch enthusiasts, we feel the same way as the people that come onto our site. So we just try to plug all those holes, and anything that we have a problem with, we'll do it better on our site. That's kind of the approach that we have. Yeah,
no, it's smart. You know how we know you care about watch enthusiasts, Wes? It's a running theme on Government Cheese Time. Ready? 20 millimeter lug width. 20 millimeter lug width. You don't need to know anything else. You care about watch pieces. If your lug width had been 21 millimeters, you're a bunch of commies and you don't like us. That's not nice. That's not nice.
Going back to e-commerce.
Next watch, put it at 21.5 millimeters. Got it.
Will Nodus ever have a a AD flagship store right there in LA or Seattle?
No, I don't.
No.
I mean, so there are brands that are, similar size that do, and I know like Brew, John's a great friend of mine. He's opening one in New York City, and all respect to him, but just for me personally, I don't really find that interesting. Like like running and managing a store to me just sounds like a huge headache. I have a lot more fun like designing, thinking about cool ideas, maybe go on tour a little more.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, there's literally nothing about running a retail store that sounds exciting to me.
I agree. I agree.
That was my pre-Navy jobs, and yeah, that sucks.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure it would be good business because you'll have that whole, you're breaking beyond the whole micro brand thing as soon as you get a official, flagship store and all that. But I've never really cared about how people thought about us. I just wanted to make cool stuff. So, we're probably just gonna do what we're doing. Hopefully, continue to do more events, do more cool projects, do more cool collaborations. But yeah, retail store is definitely not in the cards.
Well, I mean, it goes back to what you just said, right? So anytime when you and Colin met, you were just two guys at the time who met, found out y'all both had a passion for watches, and you both create Nodus. And then now look at what y'all have done and look at what y'all are doing in the future. And what you've come from. Like you just said it, the Contrail 1 to the Contrail 3, it's a continuous evolution. Sorry. And that's why I approached you as AWWC to be like, hey, like, can we do a collab first of all, right? Because he could have said no. All right, well, there goes that. And then the response we've had on our side, and of course Alex and Jason can attest to this, is like for the DLC Deep is people have asked you for a DLC Deep, we're doing it, and then it's just y'all are continuously evolving, and I'll volunteer to be a boutique manager forever for y'all.
My dream is to open a brewing company. I would love to do like Nodus brewing down the line.
Hey Wes, I brewed my first beer 3 years ago with a brewer. It was a Belgian.
Now you got a boutique and a brewery manager.
Yeah, exactly.
You have to buy 10 beers before you purchase your first watch at the same visit.
No, but can you imagine, like, here's a flight of our brews, and then like, oh, by the way, try on this Avalon or this Duality or this D.
I mean, there's definitely something there. So I mean, it's funny because like we actually, when we did our Intersect in 2021, just coming out of COVID, we did it at a cocktail bar, and between me and we hired a mixologist to come up with 3 drinks, and we named it all after our watches. And like our watches are inspired by certain ideas or certain concepts. These drinks were inspired by the exact same concept, right? So like a good example would be Retrospect, right? It's like a vintage inspired watch. So I was like, this has to be a riff on the old fashioned. You know what I mean? And then Sector is versatility, right? The key is versatility. We have to have one platform, make a whole ton of different watches. So we did like a tiki cocktail that was versatile. That's like kind of, it appeals to anyone and everyone, right? So I would love to do something like that, but with beers.
Ooh.
Real quick, Wes, you brought up the Sector case.
Yeah.
That was also one of the things that I think blew my friend's mind that I sold my Deep to. And we all work in cubicles, so like everyone comes over, but these are all retired Navy guys, right? And women. And I'm like, no, man, they took a case, and each one of these in the Sector series is the same freaking case essentially. So how the watch wears for the most part, right? Like how it feels on your wrist. I mean, yeah, are there weight differences? But for the most part, how it sits on your wrist, And I'm like, and then now you have all these different functional watches based around the same case design, right? And then to go back to what Cody says about how you took the Duality 1 or 2, or sorry, the Contrail 1 and 2, and you made changes, right? And I told him that. I said, now you have a watch company that's actually making changes. They're not just doing like Entech did in freaking Tron, where they're like, no, we're just going to call it version 12, but we didn't actually change anything to version 11, right? So it's nice to see that combination of, updating stuff, fixing stuff, and then thinking about the end user, right? Cody always talks about the end user. You think about the end user, it's like, man, because some of us are so busy, bro. We don't want to think too much, right? About something we're going to put on our wrist, right? Oh, sweet. I got this sector deep. It wears like a charm, and it's a bigger one, right? It's bigger. Alex knows that. But I know if I get the sector, field, well, man, that thing's going to wear the exact same thing. Just look a little bit different because it's a different kind of watch. You eliminated the thinking for busy, hardworking people that got a lot of crap to do and want to put their money into a company they know they can trust, that the quality is going to be the same, right? And maybe down the road, 3 years down the road or 4 years down the road, they release a new field and they can move their old field and get a new one, right?
Mhm.
It's just a little bit better for an already existing good product. So I think that's cool.
Well, I'll let you in on a dirty little secret from the watch industry. Well, in particular, the Swiss watch industry, is that concept of like having a case that can be transposed across a whole different style of watch or different styles of watches, that's actually been done for like forever, right? So like the Sub and Explorer actually have the same mid case, right? They don't call it the same thing because they don't want people to know that they're basically trying to save money on tooling costs and molding and all that stuff, right?
We don't talk
The only
about rollers
difference
on this show.
between and that is that we're telling people, hey, this is actually all the same tools, all the same tooling, same case shape, same internals. This is all the same. And we're trying to tell a story around that. We're trying to say the Sector series is a platform that we're bouncing in different ideas, different directions. Everyone, a lot of the Swiss brands do this. Omega's guilty of it. Tag's guilty of it. But I can say Seiko doesn't do this. Maybe to their detriment, right? I think we all know that Seiko has like 1 billion different dive watches, and they all have different cases. They share the same DNA, a lot of them, right? And everyone knows that Seiko can make a big watch where small. They have like some wizard working in the design lab at Seiko making big watches, but making it for small wristed people like us. So but they're still investing in new tooling and new cases and all that.
I have really small wrist.
No,
everyone makes fun of me for it.
Jason is the outlier here. He's like a 40-inch wrist.
No, it's really cool though, Wes. And it's Alex was talking about your website, and then like the stuff you're sharing here though. In firefighting in the Navy, the first qualification you get is communication, right? Basic damage control communications, right? Because none of the other stuff matters if you can't communicate effectively, right? And everyone has to communicate the same way going up and down the chain, right? In order to get this fire out. So, people doing operational stuff can actually operate the ship, right? Because you can't, there's times where you do shut down the whole ship to fight a major fire, but this ship has got to go from point A to point B, fire be damned, right? You got to fix it on the way, even like on a sub. So many watch companies don't understand this, and it's insulting to people like Cody, Alex, and myself who have done very mechanical engineer type things, hard things for 20 plus years, right? And then we know what they're not telling us, right? Or we can infer what they're not telling us. So it's like, you want me to fork over like $3,500, $4,000 for this watch when I can look at like a pattern and tell what you're doing, right? Which led to my point that I forgot before was your LHD Deep saved me $3,500 because when I got it, I didn't want the Pelagos LHD anymore. Why? Why do I need it? Right? Screw that. I don't need the thing. I've held it. And it's like, well, I'm not going to spend $3,000 more for this watch, right? But you guys communicate well, you communicate early, and you communicate effectively, right? You don't try to talk down to us and none of that stuff. And that matters, right? Because I can tell you right now, Alex's money is hard earned, Cody's money is hard earned, my money's hard earned, right? And we can all three are a microcosm, just like the military is, of a larger group of people, right? And there's 3 different distinct collectors here, or enthusiasts, whatever you want to call us, because Cody's taste is drastically different than mine, and Alex's taste is drastically different than mine. But we can all appreciate what each other has. And when a watch company doesn't understand that and cuts us some slack by just telling us something that we already know, we're going to look somewhere else. That's why Cody hates Rolex. He hates Rolex. And I get it.
It's true. It's not that I hate Rolex. They make their watches are true iconic watches in
Yes.
horological history. Okay, everyone knows that. My gripe with Rolex is, and this is Cody Fight talking, not Cody of WWC. This is my personal opinion. The way they treat their potential clientele, the way they treat their ADs and boutiques is beyond cutthroat, to where it's like, I should not have to prove to a company that I can afford and I want one of your timepieces. Well, I shouldn't have to prove to you that I'm worthy enough of buying a Submariner from a boutique AD, not in the gray market. And then the certified pre-owned Rolex program they have, like this, that's the prices are ridiculous in my opinion. Versus, that's my gripe with Rolex. I'll get off the soapbox about that. Back to Wes and Colin. But most people know in AWWC that I'm not a Rolex fan. So they give me a hard time about it, but
no, but it's a perfect example, Cody, of why, like, you know, I know some people might watch this and be like, oh, it's a love fest for Nodus, but no, we call it like it is, right? Like, I haven't had as much experience with Nodus as Alex has. Maybe Alex has got something that he used to have a beef with that's since been fixed, right? Like, I think I remember you talking about the bracelet tapering or something at one point with one of them.
So the
point is it got fixed.
Yeah. So when we did the episode about the Deep, I wrote down the tolerances on the Nodix, and then before we came up with the episode, you guys had the post that you guys mentioned that you, on the next iteration, you guys were fixing the tolerances. And on the episode, I said, you know, if I was going to talk about something that some people will find a fault in, it will be the tolerances on the Nodix. Mm-hmm. But I can't mention that because the fact that they already came out with a post saying that they fixed it. So to me, that's having your finger on the pulse of what your guys want. It shows that you guys are also enthusiasts and you guys understand, hey, this is something that we need to fix, and you fix it, period. That's it, you know. But like Jason said, I've been a fan of Nodus for a long time, and from the beginning of my episodes of my podcast, I've always been singing the praises of Nodus. So I think that it's one of those great brands that I think you guys have a great brand in American watchmaking that is period, regardless of price point, regardless of what the watches are coming, what watches are coming out. You guys are setting the standard in a lot of ways for a lot of micro brands in the United States, which is a lot to say because the United States doesn't have a lot of the backing or the FaceTime of in the watch world like other sides have, Japanese watchmaking or Swiss watchmaking. So definitely one of those things that is putting you guys on the map, period.
Yeah.
Little by little.
And you guys are bringing it back to the States. I don't think you probably realize that, but I think it's important for everyone that's watching to stop and think about that for a second. It's like, there's other companies that do assembled in America. There's other they're getting the stuff in, right? But I'm pretty sure a majority of those companies are figuring out ways of how do we take some of our revenue and invest it back in the company to start making our own movements, to start making this, right? And that's just like compound interest at that point, right? If you invest in it, you get people qualified to do that stuff. Yeah, you might lose one or two to go be independents or whatever, right? You start doing stuff like recruiting from the Veterans Watchmakers Initiative out of Odessa, Delaware, blah, 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 blah. And you start to grow this thing. And then we bring back that capability to our nation, right? I mean, it's a big country. You guys can operate like Major League Baseball and have little fiefdoms all over the place, right? Like I got the Atlanta region on lock. I got the Los Angeles region on lock. But I think it's important because you're going to employ people. I'm like, that's what we're all about, right? Like Alex and I don't host this stream with Cody via the AWWC because we want to make money. We host it because we want to get stories out like this, and we want to help the communities through AWWC, et cetera, right, through the charities. And that's how I've seen what companies like you, and we'll name some other ones like Ver and these other ones that do stuff where they're letting you know, like, hey, we're not we're not making these watches in the States right now. We're assembling these watches in the States, but you can kind of tell that's their long-term goal without them really saying it. I think it's important.
Yeah. I spoke about this a little bit earlier in the episode, but I'll just kind of rehash, like with Nodex in particular, the clasp is not like, that's not all Nodex is about. We have a lot of other ideas. We have ideas about quick release spring bars. We have ideas about a better crown system. We have an idea about a bezel mechanism, like a better captive bezel. So all these things fall under the Nodex umbrella. But I can pretty much guarantee you that the first time we unveil a lot of these projects that we have going on, they're going to be issues, and unfortunately, that's just kind of the way dealing with mechanical things. That's just the way it works.
Yeah.
But bringing stuff back to the US, like what you're saying, part of the story is definitely employing Americans who can make a living doing this, because it's ultimately it's a really good job. It's fun. It's it ideally it makes a lot of money, right, for people that enjoy doing this kind of thing. But really, the value of bringing work back to the US is that we can iterate a lot faster, right? The American way of doing things is innovation. It's not about resting on our laurels. It's not about relying on stories like, being an old Swiss company that was in the French like army or whatever, right? To Cody's point, it's like Rolex can afford to treat people like shit because they can. We can't do that. Even if we could, we wouldn't, because we're not about the exclusivity. We're not about drop culture. We're not about any of that stuff. We're about innovation. And I think pretty much every American brand would be able to resonate with that, because we literally, as Americans, have it in our blood to be innovative. Unfortunately, up until now, it's been very hard for us to innovate, because the Swiss companies have had all of our Chinese factories, had their boot on their throat saying, hey, prioritize our orders. We're the big volume. And then COVID happened. All the Swiss pulled out of China and moved to another part of Asia. So now the Chinese are like, okay, for whatever all these tariffs and our geopolitics, whatever is going on, the watch factories are actually very receptive to our ideas now. And that was a big change that happened over the past 3-4 years. We don't hide the fact that we make our stuff in China, and we have partners in Japan as well. We do stuff with Switzerland. Like, we have partners all over the world. But again, as Americans, I don't think that matters. I think as Americans, what matters is innovation. Get it done best way possible be cost effective. Ultimately, if we can bring stuff back to the US, it's not because we're trying to have the made in the USA label. It's not because we're trying to save money. If anything, it'll be more expensive. If we bring stuff back to the US, the only reason why we do it is because we can iterate and innovate faster.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things, right? Like it takes a lot more. Like you were saying at the beginning with, designing ideas and so on and so on. Sometimes people can't see the little things that go in a process and so on and so on. It's really hard. So Wes, you mentioned how the process, or kind of how the idea of some of your watches came, like the collab that you're doing, but going back to some of your other watches, like let's say the Deep, right? LHD, original LHD, how that came to be. What was the motivating factor that brought together the idea of a watch like the Deep?
So that actually is probably the only watch in our catalog that I did not touch. That was 100% Cullen. So I guess probably the next time I come on the show, I'll bring Cullen on the show too, so we can talk a bit more about that. But essentially, the design brief for that one was, we wanted to make a tougher watch, a watch that people in the military could actually use when they're out in the field. To this date, I mean, all of our stuff, it is water resistant, it's shock resistant, blah, 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 whatever, right? But we wanted to make something specifically designed for people in the military. And essentially what Cullen did was he took some of the most popular watches that are worn in the military. It was stuff by Tudor, stuff by Zinn, and stuff by Seiko. And he said, if we could combine these three brands, right, these companies have a long heritage, long stories, and in the field, and take the best things about all three brands and put into one watch, then that's what we wanted to make. So like when people ask me now about the Deep, like at Windup or whatever, I basically say, imagine if Zinn and Tudor had a baby, and then that baby was adopted and raised by Seiko. That's what.
Sweet dude.
Yeah,
That's pretty badass. That's pretty badass.
But
Yeah.
all of it came out of Cullen's head. That was all Cullen's idea. Me and the rest of the team, we just try to tell the story behind it. But it very much was a joke. Like it was like exactly that. Zinn Tudor have a baby raised by Seiko. It started out as a joke between all of us, and then it ended up looking like a pretty badass watch. So we were like, all right, might as well just tool it and prototype it, not knowing if we're actually going to make it, right? Because that's happened a lot with us too, where we have a prototype made, looks good on paper, looks good in like 3D renders and all that, but then we get it in person, put it on the wrist, could be a nice watch, but if it doesn't, to get it across the finish line, being a nice watch is not enough. No. So we prototyped it, not knowing we were going to make it in real life and release it to the public. But when we got the first prototypes in, we were like, all right, we've got something here.
Yeah. And, when you mentioned I kind of wanted to drive it to that point, right? Because when you mentioned the fact that it was the whole Tudor Zinn baby raised by Seiko, right? When I have talked to a lot of other people, you can tell it was made very well and designed very well. You guys, give you props, you guys, for that, because the fact that a lot of people see the watch and can't pick up the fact that was the design idea, right? The fact that those companies came into place, those design cues came into play, and to combine and make this watch. A lot of people can't tell. And a lot of people mention it as they look at the watch, and they're like, you know what? Now that you mention it, it is true. It got those cues. So there's a lot of companies out there that make a homage watch, and as soon as you see it, you say, okay, it's after this watch. But with the Deep, a lot of times people look at this watch and they say it looks amazing, and they don't know where the design idea came from. So the fact that happens, it's testament to the fact that you guys designed this watch properly, even though it takes cues from other watches.
Non-watch people, man, will stop and look at that thing and be like, I really like that. Especially on the bracelet. Like when it's on the bracelet, especially because it looks like a singular, like equipment system subsystem, right? It looks like a piece of a system, right? Like it's designed to go together. There's separate parts. There's equipment system subsystems, but it all goes together. It's designed to work together, and it works, and it like has a flow to it, which is really, you know what I mean? Like, and you can tell what appeals to who, because some people are like, oh man, that thing's really easy to read. Older people, right, that don't have their readers on are like, oh, I can tell what time that is. Bingo, right? Other people are like, man, this thing's built like a brick crap house, right? And it is, right? My buddy who has it now, he's like, dude, I've hit this thing. He goes hunting. He goes, I fell out of the tree, landed on the ground with this watch on. Nothing happened to it. I hit it on my truck. I mean, it is what it is. People fall out of trees.
Yeah, what was he doing in the tree in the first place?
Tree stand.
Tree stand.
Yeah. People wait for these animals to walk by, mind their own business, and then they shoot them and eat them, which is fine because I like meat. I'm just saying, like, get on the ground and try to like gut the deer with your knife or something. Like, man. Anyways, but it's just really, 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 really nice to see. I can tell a clear process of thought, because if it took you a long time to figure out this watch that was a joke, that watch would cost more money, because the end price is directly related to how much time, how many personnel hours it took in R&D to get this freaking thing made. Right? Yeah. If it took you a long time, that watch would have cost more money. So to me, as a guy who, does budgeting and all this crazy stuff, it shows a pretty efficient workflow in your company process, and you're not out there wasting my money that I'm going to spend on a watch. And I appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, like that's a thing. When I first saw it in the flesh, or in the steel rather, it was one of those cases where it felt like the final product was greater than the sum of its parts. Right? It didn't feel like we took ideas from these watches and just crammed it together. It felt like still felt fresh, right? But I can point out that the hands are inspired by Seiko. I can point out that the indices and the case is inspired by Tudor. I can point out that the bezel is inspired by Sin, right? Like they're clear. There's a clear lineage when you start to look closely, but when you zoom out and look at it as an actual tool, because believe it or not, watches are tools and they're meant to be used. It ends up being better than all those things added up.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
So you talk about a steel case. Will other materials ever be used in the deep as a case?
Yeah, we're prototyping a titanium one now.
Ooh, there you go.
I can't.
You heard it, folks.
I'm gonna mute myself for a second.
Don't. It's okay.
Yeah.
Okay, there you go.
It's a while out because there's something we're trying out with the inside of the case. I have to think of a way to say this without giving too much away, but we're trying to figure out.
You can't do it away. You can't. Don't give it away.
Yeah,
Don't
don't
give
give
it
it away. No.
We heard titanium. I like the TI. We're good. I'm just
Okay.
gonna start another fund.
You'll have to start another.
Well,
fund
I'll say
because
it's along the lines of Nodex on the inside of the case.
Yes,
Oh.
and it's not going to be. Okay, so going back to my the No Time to Die S&P was grade 5, I want to say.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a less true titanium metal compound, whatever you want to call it. Metal, whatever. Nodus isn't going to be using grade 5 titanium, are they?
That's still undecided. It depends on how we want to finish the case, but generally, like grade 5 titanium is used if you have polished surfaces. So that's why Grand Seiko uses grade 5. They don't call it that. They say it's like proprietary, but it's just grade 5.
Yeah.
It's like how they call their polishing like some weird name, Zaratsu.
Zaratsu, baby.
But
Zaratsu, yeah, or
it's just Latin.
Everbright.
It's nothing.
Yeah.
It's nothing special.
Yeah.
Another one of those like. So the Japanese are guilty of bullshit too, right? I'm not going to get by too easy.
Yeah.
But the deep to me doesn't feel like it needs polished surfaces. So if that's the case, I'd rather use something like grade 2 titanium.
Yeah.
But we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, and I've pulled like the mil specs on metallurgy and stuff, right? Because I got that kind of time. And like the difference between grade 2 and grade 5 isn't as great as people think. A, from a military perspective, right? B, it comes down to what you're going to use it for, right? And the tolerances and all that crap, right?
Yeah.
And I think that only 1.001% of us would ever use that watch and that capability, right? And it's like when people talk about milled versus stamped clasp, right? Well, okay, but if it could be stamped, but what if I fold the metal over 9 million times and then stamped it? Well, that's a super strong stamped case or clasp. Right, it could be stronger than this milled clasp that the metal's only been, done one time. So it's crazy. Like I would just say that goes back to your communication. So whatever you guys do with your titanium, just let us know without giving away any IP, and then all the neckbeards will shut up, and then the rest of us will be like, nice watch.
No, neckbeards never shut up. It's terrible.
It's true.
No, they never do.
I shaved tonight because I didn't want to even have the like a shadow of neckbeard. I was like, I gotta shave. My wife's like, why are you shaving at 8 o'clock? I'm like, I got the light. What do you want me to do?
Yeah, they'll never shut up, but the whole working with different materials, that's pretty impressive, man. Pretty impressive. Look forward to it. Sure.
Yeah,
I love
it's exciting. It's exciting. I mean, like obviously the designing part is exciting, but then actually doing stuff with different materials. We did a bronze Avalon, which was also a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
But titanium's different because you have to treat the metal a little bit differently. And like also it picks up DLC coatings a little bit differently. We're experimenting with like Cerakoting, and that binds to titanium a little bit differently than steel. So the curing process is a bit different. So there are a lot of like cool little chemistry experiments that we have to run, you know, in the background before we bring a watch to market. And again, chances are we're gonna screw it up the first couple of times, but that's my disclaimer.
It's cool.
That's cool. Yeah, we're down for the testing, man. We're down for the testing. There's no
We're
issue.
along for the ride. So
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
a lot. I think you have more people along for the ride than you realize. I'm sure you do data analytics and all that stuff, and you crunch numbers and stuff, and you know your markets. But
And you're right. You know, the deep doesn't need polished surfaces, so that's for that.
No,
And
you have sectors with polished surfaces, right?
Yeah,
you
I mean,
have
pretty much all of them,
Yeah,
except for the deep, have polished surfaces.
exactly.
If anyone wants a polished surface, go buy another sector. There's a series. That means there's more than one.
It's a platform.
Series.
Yeah.
It's a platform. You know,
Nice, Alex.
You know, Wes, you were mentioning that you guys wanted to create a watch more for the military, right? But I would tell you, when I was in Alaska, I wore my my retrospect very often, and Cody can tell you, in our training areas, it gets very, very cold, and you know, I never had an issue with it. So, props for that, because I never had an issue. I wore it to the field for multiple times in the water. Cold water. So
Well, at least we did something right.
a lot of things right, man. So, you know, and when you talk about titanium and you know, a lot of things, you know, the military and LEOs, we're used to the military grade. When civilians think the military grade is really good, it just means lower is better, man. So you guys are doing way better than military grade. You know, so that's props for that for sure.
Yeah, thank you. And again, if you or anyone listening have any ideas at all, we're always listening. So if there's anything that you want to try as like people that have a background in the field, just, you know, let us know.
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah.
So, Wes, you guys have any events coming up anytime soon, other than Introspect, or anything that you want to? You know, we usually try to keep the episode about an hour long because we know you have your time's valuable, and our guest as well. But is there anything coming up that you want to let anybody know about? Anything you want to plug, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, so September 9th, Intersect Dallas. You can either send us or Jack Mason an email, and we'll send you a link to RSVP. We're not doing Wind Up New York this year. We did SF, we did Chicago. We won't be doing New York just because the end of the year is a little bit crazy. You know, as far as like so we're doing the event with Matt Farah as well, and then we have Intersect LA, so it's just a little bit too jam-packed. There's another event. I don't think I can announce it just yet, but we'll announce it through our website or through our newsletter. But it's an event with this really high-end car collector, Icon 4x4 on Instagram. He's starting to host an event. Basically, he's curating a bunch of brands and stuff. And I can't say what it is or when it is yet, but when it's confirmed, I can send an email out. Yeah. That's about it. Anything that I'm missing, it'll be up on our website on the events page. So you go to about and then a drop-down menu. To Alex's point about communication, and to your point, Jason, about like being clear with what's coming. Our events are probably going to be the focus over the next year. So that page will be updated in the next couple of weeks with everything.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Well,
You
guys,
heard it, folks.
any
Notice
parting
it's
shot?
not going to be at Wind Up this year.
Yeah,
I know. My heart
Sad.
broke a little bit.
heartbroken.
I might go there for like just to hang out.
Okay.
And obviously I'll have a watch or two on me, but as far as showcasing is just, I mean, to be honest with you guys, San Francisco and Chicago destroyed me. And I had like a week-long recovery after that, which is just more than I can afford right now.
Yeah.
And New York is always the biggest one. So we decided to just let's cool it on Wind Up for the year. We'll be back next year.
Got it.
It's all good.
Oh,
man.
so you will be at Wind Up next year?
Yeah.
Oh.
That's the plan, at least.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
It's understandable. It's understandable, man.
Hey, man, you got to take care of yourself sometimes, man. You got to listen to your body. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? That's the
Exactly.
absolute truth, bro. You got to listen.
Well, about Cody, Jason, you guys have any other parting shots before we start wrapping this up?
Cody, you can go first if you do.
Yeah. So by all means, check Nodus out. They're they're one of the real McCoys in the micro brand industry right now. Wes said it himself. If you have an idea, just shoot them a message. You'll be surprised to know that they read everything, and B, they're going to be the ones to respond to you. So check them out. They're the real deal.
Yeah, totally agree. And don't forget, check out AWWC Anti-Watch Club on the interwebs, and get an Nalgene bottle. I snuck mine into some photographs. No one knew it during my giveaway win. I had my brown Nalgene bottle out there with the AWWC logo, and no one was any wiser.
So plug ourselves.
Yeah, dude, in the desert in Moab, Utah.
Nice.
Yeah, brown bottle in the desert.
Yeah,
Alex.
Yeah, for me, guys, like Cody mentioned before, I can attest to this, right? And I mentioned this before. I messaged them when the Deep came out. I had an issue, right? I mentioned this before. I was moving. I was PCSing. I was coming to Kansas. I had no address yet. And when I did get an address, the mail service, the USPS, still couldn't find my damn house. So, hey, government work, right? So it happens. I messaged Wes, and they messaged me back very quickly and helped me out with the fact that, my address was a big issue, and it worked out. So, we complain all the time as watch collectors about the relationship with brands. We complain all the time about how we get treated, like Cody mentioned, from brands. We complain all the time about not having access, and this is all null with Nodus. So, they're watch enthusiasts too. They know what we complain about because they've been through it. So check them out, give them a try. I guarantee you're not going to be upset. So, great brand. Up to you, Wes.
Wes had his party shots.
Anti-watch.
Yeah, Anti-Watch Club. Check it out.
Government cheese time.
Government cheese time, baby.
And we'll be back next Saturday. Wes, appreciate you coming in.
Truly, thank you, Wes.
Yeah, I know you're busy.
Yeah, this was fun. We'll do it again. I'll bring Cullen next time.
For sure.
Yeah, we need story time with Cullen.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Have a good night,
everybody.
And talk to you guys next Saturday.